of Liam Hendriks after his announcement yesterday that he will take some time to focus on his health. And I know you wanted to echo that sentiment this morning, Steve. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Lauren. Yeah, I think obviously everybody's thoughts and prayers going out to Liam Hendriks and his wife in their battle now with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And there will be a day for conversation about the impact of the White Sox and their bullpen. This is about a person, not a baseball player. And this is one of the warriors in the game. And so there's no doubt in my mind he's going to attack this like he attacks hitters on the mound. And I can't wait for the day that we get that celebration from, full, clean diagnosis and everything's going well, because this guy pitches with passion. And look, he's also big in the community, the Roberto Clemente Award nominee for the White Sox this year. And this will be a platform that I'm sure he's going to use in his own battle to help others that are battling cancer as well.
So very well said. As the White Sox said on Twitter, you've got this, 31. We were all behind you. You and I spoke on Friday about Carlos Correa, and I asked you about the timeline, right, Steve? One way or another. You said sooner rather than later. Are we still here Monday, January 9th?
Yeah, I think it's going to get done very soon. Word on the street is they're getting close. Language is getting close. Here's one thing to think about from Correa's camp. If the Mets go away, what do you have left? You have one team, maybe the Twins, with no leverage to negotiate. And so I think because there hasn't been a quick pivot away from the Mets like there was from the Giants to the Mets, I think the Mets are the one team to make the deal. And so I think every indication it's going to get done, and I suspect that this will be done in the next day or so.
Wow, next day or so, perhaps in a restructured deal. As soon as we hear the details, we will certainly bring it to you. We were just looking over, I'm looking at it right now, a list, Steve, of the remaining free agents. There's still studs out there. Who's getting the most interest right now? Who's next?
Yeah, I think Johnny Cueto. I mean, 3 teams are interested, the Marlins, Reds, and Padres, and Cueto had a great year. How about almost 160 innings pitched, and he didn't make a start until May 20th. That's a guy that logged big-time innings. And what about Michael Wacha? He had a great year with the Boston Red Sox, Wacha did. Boston right now has not made the move to bring him back in. The Orioles been tied to him a little bit as well, but he stayed healthy for the season, and that's an important factor for him when that fastball is there. And then on the position player side, Jurickson Profar. I think that, we saw A.J. Pollock off the board to the Mariners. I think you've got David Peralta out there. But Profar's a guy that may be waiting for the Brian Reynolds market to shape up. And the teams that don't get Reynolds may end up pivoting to Profar, and a guy that really is a solid all-around baseball player.
There's a trickle-down effect, isn't there? January 9th, still chips to fall. Appreciate the time, Steve Phillips, as always. We'll talk with you tomorrow.
Staff for that bit of fun. It's a new segment we're rolling out today to kind of forecast the springs of all 30 teams in Major League Baseball. We're not quite starting at the top alphabetically because we would have hit Arizona first, but let's go to the Atlanta Braves. And a spring daydream for Atlanta, Keith, does it have anything to do with maybe playing in an LCS for the 6th time in the last 7 years?
Could be. New segment, new front end. We'll start our preview by way of review, talking about what the Braves were able to do last year. This first full screen, teams to win 100-plus games as a defending World Series champion, really hasn't happened that much in recent years, although we've had a flurry of them here in the last 5 years after that didn't happen very often in the previous decades. So going forward, what do they have? Well, we know they've locked up a lot of their young players. Take a look at some of these extensions, including some players that were recently acquired this offseason. Sean Murphy, chief among them. Austin Riley and Matt Olson locked up on the corners for long-term deals, and then their homegrown guys as well on some very team-friendly deals. But the problem, guys, it's going to be a crowded National League East once again. You look at the favorites here to win the National League pennant. 3 of the top 5 teams coming from that division. So my question for you guys, a lot of either new faces or faces that weren't there for the whole season last year. Outside of Austin Riley, Matt Olson, who in that lineup are you most intrigued by going into this year? And Harold, specifically for you, how about their idea of Vaughn Grissom taking over at shortstop?
Well, that's got to be the most intriguing thing of it all. But I'm pretty confident with what I saw from Vaughn Grissom last year. He's going to be a really good fit and a really good Major League shortstop. The one guy I'd be interesting is Michael Harris, because he came on. When you come up from the minor leagues and you're hot and you're already swinging the bat and you come into the lineup, you're able to just continue to keep that going. And I know he made some adjustments along the way, but now you go home in the offseason. They're figuring out how to attack you. You come back fresh. I'm curious how he will adjust this year. Those are 2 that stand out to me.
Yeah, for me, I'd answer this way. I'm curious to see, Austin Riley now has the long-term deal in his pocket. I don't expect him to get anything except better with that contract secured, and he's already an elite player. I also want to see how much better the Braves are with a full year of Ozzie Albies, because we kind of lost sight of how good and how important he was. He was unavailable for such a long period of time this year. Anybody internally there will tell you about his value. It might not always show up in terms of batting average or OPS, but what he does as a defender, what he does as a switch hitter, can't always be measured on a stat sheet. And I want to correct myself. If the Braves are going to dream big, it would be a 5th league championship series in the last 6 years, not 6 of last 7.
They're going to make a nice run.
They've been a model franchise, man. Let's face it. But
the
way they've developed, the way they've
locked them in,
right, acquired players and locked them in. We used to talk about the John Hart Indians of the 90s as the model for how you go about your business. What the Braves have done, I mean, they should be the envy of all other teams in baseball, including the Yankees, including the Red Sox and Cubs. They've done it smarter and better than anybody. The proof's in the pudding. A World Series 2 years ago, and they are a perennial power. I
totally agree with all that you said. The one thing I'll throw in here too, they don't have a lot of players. I don't think headed to the WBC. A lot of their talent is young. They're going to be in camp. They'll play together. And a lot of the other teams have, the Mets, for example, have 9 or 10 players going to WBC already.
Let me ask you this. Before the show, did you just down huge milkshakes? Or
no, all of a sudden this came on like 2 nights ago, and then this morning is killing me.
You gotta get some gargle or something from the man here.
I'm trying. I'm scuffling.
Buttermilk? Did you have buttermilk last night?
Nothing. No.
Cheese?
No, I'm sick. Nothing to do with buttermilk.
We're going to take a break, come back and say something right after this.
Could you butter a couple of rolls for me there, please?
Gregory Soto is now a Philly, and their bullpen certainly gets deeper by the week, apparently, as we see the deal there. Soto and Clemens to the Phillies, Vierling, Maton, and Sands to the Tigers. This is certainly following up on the Joe Jimenez deal to the Braves, from Detroit to the Braves. So the Tigers and Scott Harris, their new president of baseball operations, clearly using and leveraging their bullpen depth to rebuild some position player depth. We could see Vierling be a very consistent starter, at least against left-handed pitching, but Soto is certainly the big name in this deal. And he is someone that, when you consider the way that the Phillies bullpen could get built out, Kimbrel, Alvarado from the left side, Dominguez is still there. There are some serious power arms there for the Philadelphia Phillies, who have their designs on getting back to the World Series here in 2023. And you consider where that NL East race goes in general. The Braves, I think, have gotten better as the offseason has gone along. Yes, they're without Dansby Swanson, but they've made some other additions, certainly, that have strengthened their club, Murphy being one of them. The Mets, even if they don't get Correa, they've still gotten stronger when you think about Verlander. And now the Phillies really answering, I think, some of the other moves that have been made in that division by thickening the bullpen and making it all the better. I do think that we'll see potentially a Painter come into the rotation. And so maybe some part of the thought here is, if you're going to have a younger prospect like Painter joining the